welcome back to my channel. Today I really wanted to go over brush care. I think it's important to know how to take care of your brushes and not ruin them, but also to keep the longevity of them. I am going to be doing a blog post that accompanies this video. I usually do that anyways, but if you didn't know, I am doing that with this as well. Okay, so usually you have two sorts of brushes. One is going to be made out of natural hair, so goat or squirrel or sable, and these ones you usually use for your dry powders and pigments and things like that, and they can be black, white, brown, that sort of color, because real hair, you can actually dye it, okay? And then the second type of brush that you probably have is going to be a synthetic brush. So your foundation brushes, your concealing brushes, anything that you would tend to use with a cream or a liquid is going to be your best bet for synthetic. Or maybe you don't know how to use brushes and you've been using them wrong. But either way, we're going to talk about how to clean both of these guys and the best way to keep the longevity of these brushes. So if you've invested in good tools, you definitely want them to last and you don't want things to get ruined. So one of my favorite ways to clean my brushes is with Cinema Secret's brush cleaner. This stuff makes your brushes smell so good and it keeps them super soft. I mean, I'm always doing people's makeup and I have to clean my brushes a lot, and it just allows me to clean them really quickly. And I've been using this, well, not this bottle, but I've been using this brand for years and I haven't had any problems with it ruining my brushes or compromising the integrity of the brush hairs. So a second way that you can clean your brushes is with some quality shampoo. If you use cheap shampoo on your hair, don't use it on your brushes because brush hair doesn't grow back like your real hair, even though I don't recommend using cheap shampoo on your real hair either. One great brand that I really like is Redken, and their All Soft shampoo and conditioner is really gentle and it's great on natural hair brushes. This is if you don't want to use the brush cleaner for some reason, the Cinema Secrets that I talked about, you can use this. Okay, so I would say once a year, maybe twice a year, depending on how much I'm using my brushes or if they're feeling kind of dry, although I would say the brush cleaner does a really great job at keeping them conditioned. But I do like to use a little bit of professional shampoo and conditioner to just make them extra soft. Especially like the eye brushes and stuff, I feel like those kind of dry out a little bit quicker than, like, let's say a blush brush or a powder brush. So I'm going to go over how you can use this, but also how to use the brush cleaner, which is a regular method. Okay, so I do feel that synthetic brushes have a little bit more resilience than natural hair brushes, just meaning that they can get away with a little bit I don't want to say harsher cleaning stuff, but I just feel like they hold up a little bit better versus if you were to use cheap shampoo, for example, on a real haired brush, it would get fuzzy and puffy and it just wouldn't be the same anymore after that. But one thing that I like to do to clean a synthetic brush, usually the brush cleaner does a really great job at cleaning products off of this, but there's some products that I use that sometimes it takes a little bit more, and because that stuff is a little bit expensive, I don't like to waste a lot of brush cleaner on trying to get a synthetic brush clean. So I will just use Liquid Neutrogena face wash. This is just the basic facial cleansing formula. It's not oil free or like for acne or anything. It's just like a basic soap. And an important thing whenever you're going to clean your brushes in water is to make sure that you don't get the ferrule wet. So what I'll do is I'll turn the water on and then I'll put a little, like just a little bit, you don't really need that much, into the palm of my hand and just kind of work the brush in there. And then same thing underneath the water. But I always keep the brush in a downwards angle so that way none of the water leaks back into the handle. And if you let water get down there, it may loosen the glue and then your brush is going to be ruined, or at least it's going to start shedding really badly. And then also you don't want to let the handle come apart due to water damage, okay? And then what I'll do is I'll just use a hand towel and I'll lay it nicely on the counter and I'll roll the edge up a little bit just so that the brush can dry at a little bit of an angle, but you don't want to add too much of an angle because it will dry that way. So you don't want your brush like crooked by the time that it's done drying. So just a teeny bit of an angle to make sure that none of the water runs into the handle, but not too much of an angle so that it actually dries your brush in a weird kind of direction. Another important thing is when you're letting the brushes dry, your real hair brushes, well, I guess also the synthetic too, you want to reshape it. So after you wash it, it will be a little bit more spread out, a little bit kind of like fluffy. If you have wavy hair, you know how that is, because once you get your hair wet, it just kind of puffs out, and the same thing happens to natural hair brushes. So you just want to kind of like do that on it and reshape it and then lay it on that angle that I was telling you about so that it can dry. All right, now cleaning with the brush cleaner. Like I said, this is super simple. It dries really, really quickly, and this is my preferred method of cleaning, which I use all the time. And aside from the few times or one time a year that I condition my brushes, this is what I'm using full time, and I really, really like it, both for my personal brushes, but also for my professional brushes. Okay, so let's go into cleaning a brush set that I recently used. So the first thing that you want to do to begin is to take a plastic jar or a metal jar or a glass jar, some sort of a jar or container, in order to pour in the brush cleaner. I've transferred my brush cleaner into a different bottle so that way I can take it with me, and I'm just going to use a little bit. Okay, so with this brush cleaner, less is definitely more. You don't want to pour a whole lot in, and because I never pour any back into the bottle, it would contaminate everything, so I just use a little bit at a time. I always start with my smaller, cleaner brushes first, so that way I'm not making this super dirty before I can move on to like bigger brushes. So you don't want to dip the whole brush in, but just sort of the tip. It absorbs a lot, and then just kind of gently wipe on a paper towel. So you can tell already with this little eyebrow angled brush that it's pretty much clean after just one dip because there's no more product coming off of it. Okay, so then I'll put this brush away. And I'll continue cleaning my brushes in the same sort of manner. Now, you don't want to snarl the brushes when you're cleaning them. You just want to do sort of gentle strokes, kind of like, I guess, with a regular paintbrush that you would do, just back and forth, really nice and not too firmly. And it does tend to soak through, so don't do this on like a table that has a high gloss finish to it or something like that, because there's a good chance that you can end up ruining the top of the table. So since this brush is a little bit more fluffy, I want to make sure that before I put it away that I just kind of shape it a little bit and then let that dry. This one's also a synthetic brush. It just seems like the lip pencils or the lipsticks are a little bit harder to clean, and oh my gosh, if you use anything that has glitter in it, good luck. Good luck getting that glitter out. And just continuing on here with the brushes that I think are gonna have the least amount of product on them, so that way I don't contaminate the little bit of brush cleaner that I have left. It's important with the fluffy brushes to make sure that you get out not just the pigment, but also that you remove most of the moisture from the brush cleaner. So I always just kind of do like an extra squish, and then you want to reshape the brush again. Fold that over and start again. With the bigger brushes, you really only want to get the tip in there. These suckers just suck up the brush cleaner like you'd never believe. So, I mean, just sticking slightly in that cleaner is going to absorb a lot of the liquid. So that was a big mistake when I first started cleaning brushes, that I would just stick the whole thing in there and it would absorb pretty much all of it, and you're wasting just a lot of product because that isn't necessary to use that much brush cleaner. Now, it's not, again, that one's dirty, but just more so that it's wet. So it is coming out clean. I just want to remove the excess there and then reshape the brush and let that dry. All right, moving on to another brush. I used this for setting, so I just want to remove any of that excess powder before going into clean. So this will actually probably use up the rest of the brush cleaner that I have in the jar, which means I am gonna have to put a little bit more, but that's fine. So with this brush, since I used a translucent powder, you're not gonna see really any color coming off of it. Maybe a little bit from the foundation, but otherwise it comes up pretty clean. So one way that you can check to make sure that you've done your due diligence with the brush is you want to just take a look at the hairs, and if it's dusty at all, then you missed that spot. But if they're back to being shiny and luminous, then you've done a great job at making sure that it's clean. Okay, so I do have to use a little bit more. Like I said, less is definitely more with this stuff. This is a good example of a brush that dried with a little bit of this brush cleaner on here, and it's turned it a little bit blue. I don't know if you guys can tell or not with that. Okay, so go ahead and dip back in, and I'm going to do same motion streaks here. Okay. And I am going to use a clean paper towel just to help absorb a little bit more of the moisture from that brush cleaner. I am squeezing relatively firmly, but I'm definitely not pulling the brush hair as I'm squeezing. So I used this brush for an illuminator, but typically I use these sort of brushes for lotion, which means that you're, again, not gonna see them coming out. And a good way to just check is to see if the luminosity has returned to the brush. And you won't see any like chunks of lotion in there or any of the glitter or anything that happens when you're using illuminators or products like that. So since this one's not really that dirty and also not that wet, I'm just gonna go back in and kind of wipe out my jar. Re-put the lid on it. I do like the plastic because it's a lot more lightweight, but I have cracked it with it being in my kit, so if you noticed, I had to clean everything kind of at an angle. Okay. So now all of the brushes are clean and I can put them away. Alright, so the last thing that I want to mention for this video is after you've cleaned your brushes and they're dry and they're ready to be put away is how you store them. And this might be a little bit off topic, but I still feel like it falls under the care for your brushes category. My professional brushes I keep in a brush belt, but they also have brush rolls. And I think that's really important for, I guess, non-makeup artists to use because it really just helps keep the integrity of your brush. And again, you probably spent good money on those brushes and you want them to last and you want them to maintain their form. And storage is just as important as it is for cleaning and care of your brushes. Okay, so that's it on care for brushes, and I'm gonna have a lot more information again with the blog post, so go ahead and check that out. And if you liked this video, do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my blog.